you need to have an exit to keep on the site and get to something relevant from above the fold. They're going to bounce.
What is going on, certified homies? Welcome to another episode of From A to B. We have Shiva, and I'm joined by Linda, the winner, Bustos. I want to say welcome to From A to B. A little bit of behind the scenes. We did a whole ass episode like a month ago, and then I was in the middle of trying to start editing, and then the whole episode got corrupted. So I had to bring her back on, and that was such an amazing episode. I'm like, nope, we have to re-record this. You're amazing. We just have to do it again. I'm so sorry. So
second time's the charm.
When we talked previously, you said you're an e-commerce truffle pig. And at first I was like, I don't want to say that because I don't ever want to call any human being a pig. But so first of all, that was your nickname that you said that you kind of are. But tell me more, like, what makes you an e-commerce truffle pig?
Well, I see the universe as a forest full of potential. So I like going out there and combing the internet, and I'm always hunting for little nuggets of something cool that I can bring back to the community. So I'm out there looking for UI and feature truffles in the e-commerce wild, and hopefully I sniff out some good ones to bring back to the community.
I love it. And your mission with that is accomplished and then some with you running ecom ideas, which is such a fun, great way that you just like scrape the sites all over and you're looking for cool, innovative ways that people are kind of breaking the mold and doing cool stuff without necessarily commenting on like, is this good or not, but highlighting, hey, this is new, this is interesting. And I really appreciate the candidness of like, I don't know if this works or not, but this is cool, isn't it? People are trying some cool shit. And it's a really cool, like, I want to say swipe file, but it's better than a swipe file. I think it's a really good way to just watch what websites are doing and kind of what's happening in the space.
There's two ways to approach A/B testing, right? One is to, solve known problems, but other ones are trying to do an experiment to see if something wild and crazy works. And if you see something on another website, it might inspire you to say like, hey, let's try if this actually works with us. Of course, you have to build it. That's that can be the second challenge, is actually building the feature.
Building it, yeah, 100%. And then seeing if it actually is a problem that's worth solving for that your users face. And then if you pass those checks, then testing it and actually seeing if it works. On that note, the episode topic for today is, let's just say, paint by numbers websites. There's a lot of them. It's you go to any Wix, you go to any company that sells websites or any designer, and for not any designer, I lied, but you go to people selling basic websites. A lot of times, even the Shopify, it's like a template that you pull off the shelf. And the customizability is probably a little bit there, but it's effectively pre-built templates that are effectively optimized for you to just make sales quickly and have some mechanism for people to purchase from you online. I think those templates start to reach their local maxima very, very, very quickly. They're optimized on like almost basically looking like everyone else. So it's functional. You can make a purchase very easily. You could use PayPal. The checkouts are super streamlined. So in those ways, it's easy to buy. But I think the issue that I generally tend to have with them is their local maxima is hit very quickly once you actually start collecting data and like start thinking about your marketing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the Shopify theme store I think they have over like 300 different templates. So if you're a really small store, that's great. That saves you. I mean, you pay like $300 for a theme, and that's maybe an hour of developer time. You get a ton of great value, and there's a lot of really cool features that theme developers are putting into their themes. It's quite a competitive space, so they're very motivated to get great UI and the features that people need, but they also have to build for mass, right? Like they have to build products that could be used by the majority of sites out of the box. So yeah, you will get something that's kind of generic if you start with that. But a lot of themes, like a lot of agencies will start with a theme. There's some themes that they like and that they're familiar working with, and that gives them a kickstart. But they can always customize it from there. So you're never locked into what you're buying, but that takes extra budget. So yeah, if you just want to get stood up really quickly, you can pick a theme. You're going to look like everybody else for sure. But the good news is you can iterate over time.
Yeah, I think it's such a great, so like to the pros for it, it's a great starting point. If you need something to literally enable people to transact and you don't want to collect a bunch of Venmo payments from people and not have an online presence, right? Like this is a great foundation. I don't want to say foundation because actually I'm curious. Do you think it's something that is a foundation, these Shopify sites that you'd want to build on top of? Or is it more of a stopgap that allows you to sell while you focus on other business logistics and you might outgrow it? I guess the hope is that you outgrow it quickly.
Well, it's tough because, I mean, e-commerce is so broad, right? So if we're talking at D2C companies that don't necessarily have the luxury of lots of teams and in-house developers, they are going to rely on external partners to get the website up and maintain it. So then it comes down to, how much differentiation do you want to put into your product pages? Like, what are your own individual use cases of how you want to sell your product? So does the stock templated description over here, accordion tabs, image gallery over here, buy button over here, mini cart, all of that, is that the best way to sell your products, or would additional features, help? And those could be, small little components that maybe describe additional details of your variants. If you have a flavor variant, you can have your 4 or 5 little chips, your flavor or your scent, if you're selling candles or deodorant or whatever, perfume. But then where do you want to surface that additional information as people are making their selections without having to on mobile scroll down, go open a description? We know that users don't read, right? Web users don't want to have to go digging for information. So that's where I would look at a generic template as a starting point and then start thinking about like, okay, how can we best sell and convince and persuade and answer the questions that are in users' head above the fold, in ways that doesn't make it too cluttered either, because the answer isn't shoving a bunch more information about the fold either.
Well, I think a lot of times the templates I've seen, like everything they try and do is just what the fuck can we shove above the fold and just put everything in the fold. And they're like, well, scroll depth sucks. So let's just make people pay attention to everything that we have above the fold. So shove a slide out above the fold, show the image, the features, the buy, like they're like trying to put everything. And as a user, I don't love it. It depends on the site and the product and everything, but I don't love it. I'm not a big fan. I think, and I had a thought and I wrote this down. Is it something to consider that if your product truly differentiates in the market, like it's a unique thing that no one really has, then maybe you could rely a little bit more on a template because you're letting the product itself do the differentiation. Whereas if you do have a product that is very competitive in the market, then perhaps an off-the-shelf template might not be as valuable because then you'll start to look like everyone else. Is that fair to say? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you're bringing up a really good point about brand and pre-selling people, right? Because once people get to your website, if you have a really hot brand, your UX does matter, but you have a lot more leeway in having bad UX or suboptimal UX. Customers are going to be a lot more forgiving if they're really motivated to get your product. So you can't optimize your way out of a generic, boring, Me Too product. You can't discount your way out of that problem either. So when you're thinking about like how like a lot of demand is driven off social media, or I'd say social media and ads are still the primary way that people discover and go directly to a D2C site. So it's your sale to lose at that point. Like if you throw up a bunch of, the page loads slow and your cart button is, way below the fold, or you shove too much stuff above, or your images suck or whatever, then that's your sale to lose. If you throw up a lot of pop-ups, we could go on. And that's where A/B testing comes in. I mean, a lot of these Shopify templates are quite customizable, like even without code. They've redone all of their theming language or architectures so that you can drag blocks up and down, and you can play around with templates quite easily now compared to in the past. So it's getting easier to, actually run those experiments on PDPs and elsewhere on the site.
So maybe that's something we could start going into. Like, what are ways, maybe using these paint by number sites, that you can start to differentiate yourself from others? And maybe we could start on the PDP. Like, what are some ways that maybe you've seen sites that generally are more cookie cutter? What are some unique ways you can stand out on product pages? Let's start with product pages first.
I get asked a lot about what can we do on product pages that's different, right? No matter what type of industry you're in. And really, if most of your traffic is coming in mobile, that first frame is going to be really important. And most sites will put the images there. And then you have to scroll down to discover information. What I am seeing in some of the more niche kind of industries, like let's say bedding, for example, is putting a little bit of a description up higher in the top, like even before the image gallery. That might work, that might not. It depends on like how important that attribute detail or like introducing and actually trying to sell the product before they explore further. But that's something that I see people mix up and play with. Another thing too is like what types of content can you have below the description with secondary galleries? Seeing a lot more like UGC secondary galleries where they'll take it from social media or social videos and try and put that either in the below the scroll as secondary content or even putting them in the buy box as like little image video thumbnails to engage with secondary content there. That's like super popular on a lot of D2C sites. And then also trying to bring video and 3D animations, infographics, turning that gallery above the fold into more information and putting product description stuff in a visual way there because it's more likely to be discovered in the gallery than it is below the fold.
So you talked a lot about like what you're seeing. Are the things that you said, are they different or is that the trends that you're seeing?
I'm going to play a little bit of like mind reading for the teams that are putting these together. I think when you break out of convention, because all the templates are pretty much images, product. The product title is either going to be above or below depending on the template, but whether you play around with it is how visually driven versus specifications or attribute driven your products are. And within a catalog, you can have a mix of visually driven and then more kind of functional accessories or technical kind of products as well.
So it's interesting you talk about like visuals, right? You talk about visuals. Is your product visual versus not? And it's interesting because you brought up mattresses before, right? Where I don't know if someone's buying a mattress because it looks because like hopefully you're putting sheets on that bitch, right? Like you're hopefully not just sleeping on top of a mattress. That's it. It's going to be covered, right, the whole time. So it's not necessarily the visuals of the mattress itself. Maybe it's the visuals of like what's cool in the mattress. Like if you have these cooling coils or whatever. I don't know what's new in mattress land. But it's interesting because I think it's not just visuals. It depends on your brand and how much of the personality maybe comes out visually versus words. Because I've seen mattresses as a very, very interesting industry to watch because the arrows that they sling at each other is pretty fun. Also, mattresses cost like 10% of what they're actually sold for. I have no hard data. I'm pretty sure that's the case, but like the markup's absurd for mattresses. So it's all in the marketing. A lot of times, like you said, some of the mattresses you saw, they have like a line of copy below the image. And that's maybe used to reinforce the brand or reinforce the product that you're seeing. Because like, what's the difference between mattress A versus mattress B? That copy is going to be one of the more important things to communicate it. Or maybe that copy's the part that will help staple the brand part. So it's not just like ripping these templates off and saying, we're just going to do it. It's trying to dig a little bit deeper into like, maybe why are they doing that?
Yeah, that's huge. I think mattress is a perfect example because if you scroll through a product list of mattress, they're all going to look the same in the thumbnail images. You get to the PDP, it's what's inside, it's the experiential, it's the minute little specification details. And that's a big purchase. Like you're not going to buy a mattress 5 times a year like you would t-shirts. You want to do your homework. It's a heavy ass thing to get delivered and it's paying to return. You don't want to mess it up. But that's why having a little tiny description, tiny text, attribute badges, some kind of contextual guide. It's interesting because, you can put like a little badge on the product gallery that makes a call out for light sleepers or for cold sleepers or hot sleepers or, whatever, pocket coil, whatever those features are, it's so important to communicate that above the fold and not to rely on text because people don't read word for word, line for line. It's got to be visual. It's got to hit the dopamine. It's got to hit the attention deficit that we all have. It's got to hit those marks and it's got to do that quickly. And if you land on a page and you're like, oh, this is for light sleepers or for people who sleep on their side. That's not me. You need to have an exit to keep on the site and get to something relevant from above the fold. Don't rely on them going up to the hamburger menu and then starting like this whole complicated journey. They're going to bounce. So that's what I think people need to start thinking about the journey. And what's even interesting too is like one of these sites, and I can't even remember what they were, in the hamburger menu, instead of having just the categories like, here's the mattress categories or the blankets, here's our duvets, our duvet covers, and our comforters and our sheets. It actually had, instead of thumbnail images or just titles, really short descriptions that qualify like, why go to this link next? And yes, people don't read a lot, but that's a great thing to test to see like for our products, for our catalog, for our customer, for the problems that they're trying to solve and the questions in their head, maybe our menu should actually be guiding them to get the best click for the first time. So I like to see brands kind of breaking away from convention, and definitely that didn't come out of the box in the template. They had to, sit in their war room and come up with a solution.
I think mattresses are generally understood of like, okay, I know I'm a side sleeper versus a back sleeper. I know I like firm versus soft. I think people have general feelings, and it's easy to pick up on those feelings. And like you said, people are scanning for the buzzwords. If they're quickly scanning a page and they quickly see sides good for side sleepers, they're like, great, I'm at the right place. I'll continue to engage. Versus if they see back, but then you're right, maybe they offer the quick, okay, but if you're looking for side sleepers, go here. Amazing. But there's some categories when you're selling that product, they know what they need, but they don't know the jargon. And I'm thinking like tools. Like you go to Home Depot and it's like, here's a screw. I don't know what any of the names are around to get it in here, but I need a thing that will turn this a particular way. I think Home Depot and Lowe's have done such a great job of getting you towards where you need by visually showing what the screw looks like or having assets to help you find it. Versus, I'm not going to throw any names out in particular, but there are other sites that are built for the pros. And it's you have to know what you're looking for. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to find it. I'm not going to find the thing that fits in like Allen wrench. How many people, okay, maybe this is exposing how not handy I am, but like how many people actually know when an Allen wrench can turn, right? So I think like there has to be, I think that's probably part of like the cookie cutter template. You could still work within a cookie cutter template, but you have to add sprinkles to the cookie. I love that. That's a fire analogy. You have to add sprinkles to the cookie so that people like understand that this is a thing that makes sense for them. Actually, I don't know if that analogy holds. Whatever.
No, it does. Sprinkles on the cookie is like all your attribute tags, right? All the things that like maybe not be visible on the site, but you better have them so that when people are searching for things, they're going to find it, even though your product data is very technical. Then you got to get your copywriters and your merchandisers involved to think through like, okay, what about this product might a complete novice or someone new to our industry need to know? And yeah, so it's part on the marketer side to have empathy for the user and to ask them questions, do the user testing, user research that's qualitative, to ask them if they understand their journey and all the way up to the menu. Like menu and search. How do you guide them?
And I think that staples home a really powerful point that if you're using these like Shopify sites, it makes branding and marketing and copy all the more important, where you really have to make it interesting. If it all looks the same and your product isn't the differentiation, your copy, you really got to nail it and you really got to differentiate. And to me, it's like people love or hate this. I think the shining example is looking at what Liquid Death was able to do from their marketing, where it's literally canned water, right? But they built a brand, they made it interesting. They added sparkling water. I got a root beer sparkling seltzer or something from them. It's expensive. It's way more expensive than just seltzer, but it's so good.
And you're still alive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's liquid life. But it stands out. Like there's something iconic about Liquid Death and the way they merchandise and sell. And to your point, they could have a Shopify website and it doesn't matter. But their marketing's so strong, their brand's so recognizable that the website doesn't really have to do a lot of heavy lifting. Also, by the way, they ran a fucking hilarious marketing campaign. I'm going to butcher this a little bit, but what I remember of it is like, we're going to offer you access to this unlimited club for free, or you could buy it, You know what I'm talking about? Or you could buy it on their website for $100,000. And it literally is a product. I was like, no shot this is real. You could literally buy this $100,000 liquid death thing. And you could add it to cart. I could add my credit card. I didn't do it. I didn't want to buy it. But I could have. They went through all that effort to do that. And I'm like, this is where it differentiates. I remember this. I won't forget it.
You and me both. I was just going to bring this up. Like, they do this funny little irreverent marketing stuff. They've got these little Easter eggs throughout the site where, you know, you can kind of discover, and it's so on brand with them. And they have some other like video content if you keep poking around the site. Like, they used to have like playlists, like music kind of that you could turn on. And they have some funny like viral social media kind of videos on there as well.
By the way, I was just looking it up. It's a country club membership for $125,000. They have 63 reviews. And it's a 4.8 stars. And it's the product page says annual fee for membership to the Liquid Death Country Club, or you could waive your fee and sell your soul to become a member instead. Like, they've leaned in so heavily into the brand. And that is amazing. I love it. Are there any other brands that you've seen where like they've done just fun, creative stuff like this?
Oh, yeah.
That like you look at the website and it's like, it's kind of a mid website. It feels like a Shopify cookie cutter thing, but the way they're positioning their brand on the website is truly how it differentiates.
Yeah. I have two favorites that I think are like do this really well.
Post-production Shiva here. You're probably enjoying this episode given that you listened to basically half of it, or maybe you hate listening. If so, joke's on you, because I'm still getting views for it. If you haven't already subscribed and you love the content, drop a sub. What are you doing? Give a like if you really feel inclined. And if you really feel like supporting, I'm selling iTest button colors merch for like $25. DM me if you're interested in buying one. We've totally sold out of mediums within like 4 days. It's absurd. You guys are amazing. If you guys want more other free content, free, no paid, go to fromatob.beehiiv.com. So that's fromatob.beehiiv.com for more content. Again, it's all free. I just need your email to know where to send it to. Memes, clips, skits, all available there for free. Just need your email. Now let's get back to the show.
One was called Good Weird and one is called Pit Viper. And they both redesigned. So they both kind of reverted back to like both of them had this kind of retro, like kitschy kind of old school internet looking or futuristic vibes. And both of them have kind of redesigned to a more like generic site. And I don't know if that's because they had a conversion problem or just new branding blood, new marketing blood, or replatforming. I don't know. But Good Weird, it was really funny because the whole thing was a space age kind of chrome. Like think of the TLC No Scrubs video where they're all like in the capsule. Like their whole website was like that.
What do they sell?
Cosmetics, like makeup.
Okay.
So they had like a Space Invaders video game. So if you scroll down to the bottom, you click on it and it would launch like a Space Invader style, but it was like little, you shoot down the little cans of moisturizer or whatever. So that was like kind of hilarious. And then they have, I just posted it today, actually, the cart that drops down and they made this totally like unique mini cart design. And again, it's all chromed out. And then their product detail page was like a mirror. Like they had this sort of like shifted oval mirror, which was the zoom for the product swatches. So they have a little gallery, which shows the product and you tab through. It switches the face of the model wearing the thing. So, okay, that's, audio's without visuals. I'll stop talking about like trying to describe these sites. But
the podcast listeners are like, yeah, this is amazing.
Like, yeah,
it's like
just
listening.
Great. Thanks to just
for the listeners to the podcast, I will plug links to these so you guys can actually go through and watch her post talking about.
They've been redesigned now,
things.
So we might have to go back to archive.org on these ones. But the other one was Pit Viper. So they did everything in the old school, Microsoft kind of. A few sites have done this, right? Where they have everything looking like their Windows 98.
What do they sell?
Sunglasses, like polarized sunglasses and like visor type stuff. And so it was super funny because they have all different types of Easter eggs. Like if you click on the search box, it pops open and the type ahead text says, ask the troll. And then if you sign up for their email, it's like, I don't know, we're kind of full on our email list, but we might squeeze you in, like kind of like don't care kind of marketing, right? on their
I'm
email.
looking at the site right now. Holy moly. It stands out. It looks like someone accidentally reverted to old CSS styles, but no, this looks.
Go check out one of their PDPs because they're doing a retro, so they've redesigned it, keeping the retro vibe. But it's really funny, like they have on their PDPs now where they've named file names with kind of funny names. So you'll be scrolling through the gallery, but pay attention to what they call the file name on top of it. It'll be like, don't use this one, private file. Like, kind of funny.
This is all amazing. And looking at this further, I just got not an exit intent, an offer pop-up that says you've got mail, you're gonna get mail, and it's like your email at hotmail.com, but HOTMALE. So like, again, this is personality. And then when I close this, you look at the photos, it's like the JCPenney back style. Like they're taking these photos behind a JCPenney's like 1980s, 90s backdrop. The titles of like the files are like no problem that JPEG. Like this is really funny. I really like this. But this is how even in a cookie cutter template, they're using their personality in the images, in the copy, in everything they're doing. It's reeking personality. If you're gonna be in cookie cutter, there's no problems with it. We get it. If you're gonna do it, there's so many fun ways you could still push your personality that will make it stand out.
Yeah, and I got 2 more examples from them, like on the older site. I don't know if they still do this now, but if a product had low stock, they would have a little badge at the top go, low stock, don't blow it. And then they would also have an unrelated products carousel at the bottom. So if you clicked on it, they had like an Incubus CD and like, moon shoes and like just random weird products. And then if you click on it, it like rickrolls you. It takes you out to Amazon. It's so. Of course, that's terrible for conversion, right? But you can tell that like they're brand first and they have a lot of fun with what they do.
I don't know if it is bad for conversion because we have no access to data. So this is pure speculation. But if it were me, if I'm doing that kind of engagement, I'm at least mid-funnel, like interested. It was like $100 to buy the sunglasses. It's not my style, but if I was interested in that style, I'd be mid-funnel and interested in style. I'd be taking that action. I would laugh my ass off and that would push me from like mid-funnel into bottom funnel. And I'd be like, I'm ready to buy. This is fucking awesome. And I'd write a LinkedIn post about like, it's little things like that where I don't know if it actually negatively, like logically, oh, you took them away from the site. But realistically, it's a back button away, but you made them laugh. You did something fun, memorable, engaging. And that's like, people buy shit for brands that they like. They don't, I don't know if everything people are buying for utilitarian purposes.
Think about product descriptions. Another one is Palace Skateboards. If you go there, their product descriptions are super random. Like it'll be 3 bullet points of just whatever the person thought up on the fly, and they try to make it kind of like a little sassy or a little irreverent. Maybe you want to pull some up and read some off at random, but
so I'm looking at one right now. First of all, $708 for a jacket can F off. I'm sorry. I'm not spending rent on a jacket, but I will never forget this. The 3 bullets are 100%, second bullet, a very hard, third bullet, jacket.
And that's all you need to know.
Another one, which is a $728 jacket, it has 2 bullets. First bullet, my body is a temple. Second bullet, a temple of doom.
This is the best copywriting job in the world. Like
that is it. So this is the crux, right? I'm not going to cap. The template's kind of boring. There's nothing interesting about it. It's a black add to cart CTA. There's a generic box that just says, here, put product description in it with a title. It's a very boring looking site. But I like my dopamine, or not dopamine, I just laughed my ass off for like 3 minutes at these product descriptions. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go bookmark this site and go read the rest of them because it's just the funniest thing in the world. This is it. Like this is the golden nugget for when you're locked into a Shopify site or a cookie cutter site. Don't let that take away from your ability to push your brand. You are perfectly capable of doing that. Don't feel like just because you're in a template, you can't stand out. You could absolutely stand out.
Well, there's definitely a trend and a movement away from anything conventional for these kind of streetwear brands and indie fashion brands. They're almost like the anti-conversion site because you'll get very, very minimalist, like what if anybody goes to Palace Skateboards or like pick anything that's being sold right now on like Farfetch or Essence website, like that's kind of like these indie brands that probably don't have a huge budget, but everything is like stripped down, streamlined. The size variants are all just a typography, like a letter. There's no buttons, there's no chip, there's no drop down, or sometimes they are behind a drop down. But there's no cart button, there's just a little text, and everything is swooshy, tiny type, all caps. And you're like, there's so many user problems here. But what they care about is the brand. And part of it is like, like almost like we don't care. We don't care if you shop here or not. That's how dope we are. I see it trending. Like, I think their creative directors are like, maybe putting conversion second.
It's a bold stance to take, but I get it. You think of like luxury brands like Mercedes and like Gucci and stuff. They don't want everyone to buy it, right? They price it in such a way that they don't want everyone to buy it. They want it to be a luxury item, a flex. So like these big time brands, they don't care if you buy it or not because they're selling the flex. They're not selling the products, right? And that's another thing. Like I don't know if those sites will ever use cookie cutter sites, but it's interesting because some of those like luxury beauty brand sites that are selling high end, like thousands of dollars worth of whatever, their UX is just like, I feel like they just don't care about their online presence. Like the copy that I've seen, it's not ironically a jewel. It's like, they don't have product descriptions. They're like, just look at the photo. Have you seen that? Like some of the top end luxury sites, not like, even though it's cookie cutter, like you can almost take that as anti-inspiration for like maybe how to not sell your product.
Yeah, some of the biggest brands out there just have. Some of them are using Shopify templates. That's the other thing that blows my mind is that they just, kind of, I'm not going to say phoned it in, but like didn't add any additional brand or design to it, which is sometimes surprising. But you never know like what people are working with resources wise and, how strategically important their online channel is. But like, yeah, you definitely see on the other end, like some of the high end brand, they will use a lot more video. They'll use a lot more whiz bang flashy, not literal flash, but like make it more an experience. And then the shopping part is a little bit harder to find the PDPs, or once you get on the PDPs, there's not much description, maybe one image, so they're definitely not staying up all night wondering how can we convert more. Maybe it's just that the brand site needs to check the box and it needs to fit the image and that's it. And sales are gravy.
I was just looking at Tiffany's website. I somehow stumbled upon a $19,000 necklace, which is just absurd. I will never have that kind of money to just drop on a necklace. But like the description is just like, it's an expression of love's transformative strength, inspired by a quintessential bracelet from the 1962 found in the house's archives. It embodies enduring resilience and uninhibited spirit. And it's like, I don't know, it has photos of it. There's a model. It shows the iconic blue box. In a way, I don't even like, it's not. And then also they have a secondary CTA of contact and advisor, which, like, of course, right? I don't know if they necessarily want people to buy online. They want you to feel. I think that description, it feels like it's on brand for them, and they're selling their brand in a different way than maybe you might sell. So I don't know, fidget spinners, whatever. Like you're not going to talk about fidget spinners like that. You're not going to position it like that. The coats, you're not going to position it like that either. But I think at the end of the day, would you agree? I don't know. You're not looking at the website, but just looking at the copy, that seems like they are selling their brand in their own way. Right?
Yeah, well, if you take it back to like brand and creative directors and stuff like that, they're going to have a style guide and like, this is how we talk about the products and stuff. And it's going to have a tone. It's not like they need to convince somebody. If you've got $18,000 to spend on a necklace, yeah, you're probably going to go into the store and you want to look at it. You might have been in the store and then you want to locate it. So then the description doesn't really matter. Maybe it's filler, placeholder. It's a box to check.
Pun intended. Tiffany's blue box is iconic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to wrap on this last question I have for you. I know we're talking about like cookie cutter, and we talked a little bit about the biggest opportunity here is really within the guardrails that you have these templates. It's never necessarily a bad thing. Just use it to its potential with the brand. I think at first I was kind of anti-template. I'm like, it feels limiting. But to be honest, I am more convinced now that like, it's not limiting when done right. But a lot of times people don't use it to its full potential. And they're like, I will paste a generic product description. I'll paste generic images. I'll use generic website. because I don't need to focus on it. And I think that's where you don't reach its full potential. So if you're doing all these things and promoting the brand there, that's amazing. One of the things that I think can be a major challenge is mobile. So whereas desktop, you have so much more real estate, and generally, I'd say, depending on the product, but generally speaking, it's higher intent to purchase in that visit. Mobile, you're dealing with site speed, you're dealing with thumb scrolling, you're dealing with small like screens. What are some thoughts or tips that you have on like when we have this cookie cutter website standing out on mobile specifically?
I see some really neat and innovative and great user experiences on desktop. And a lot of my feed, a lot of the ecom ideas database is showing desktop examples because there just is more that you can do and there's more that you can differentiate. And then those exact same sites, when they scale down a mobile, lose it. Like either they hide or drop that piece of content or that feature or that style, and it just goes back to normal. It goes back to baseline. And there's nothing you can really do about it as a designer. So yeah, that's the sad thing, is that websites do have to look quite a lot the same and have the same sort of flow on mobile. And there's tiny little things that you can do and tweak and test. But yeah, it is a limitation for sure.
One thing I've seen people try on mobile that maybe they don't leverage as much on desktop is like interactive assets for finding products. So it helps on the discovery side of things, that like instead of spending a bunch of time, product 1 back, product 2 back, scrolling, trying to compare, it's like, let us help you get, based on some inputs, let us get you to the right product page that's most relevant for you based on the needs that we've collected. Also, that's a really great way for you to like get first party information from that user, what their needs are, and do some qualitative feedback on that. So it's a win-win. Use that as a great way to just start capturing this information from the user and then show them relevant information. So instead of like, do I start with search? Do I start with the nav? I see this homepage thing. I don't even know if it works for me. Let them self-serve and see maybe can they find it on their own, or not on their own, but like guide them towards it better.
Totally. I just recently did a video kind of compilation on some of the interesting ways that I see merchants helping like turn that product detail page, especially if you're coming directly from mobile, into not a dead end, but like, okay, if this isn't your jam, like let's keep you on the site and get you to the next most relevant thing. The classic one that everybody uses is a recommendations pod, like you might also like. And I think people are kind of banner blind to that now. They often live below the fold. They're not hardly ever relevant. But some interesting things that I'm seeing instead is like being able to append after you get past the core blocks, just start showing like a mini product listing page underneath of stuff very, very visually similar or something like that, now it's assuming that you just came into a category and not the product page. So find something similar. Another one is like these visual search apps like Site.ai. And there's some others where you can actually find visually similar and there will be a call to action either popped on top of the image gallery or just below, like find similar. And that can, open up a drawer or a light box where you can kind of even filter it by size. Like if something is out of stock and you're like, oh, help me find something similar, then it will scope it and filter it by the color or the size that you've selected on the PDP. Another one is just links to like more in this color or more in this style or more in this whatever attribute that you have there. Not just apparel, but anything could be more in this, fill in the blank. And then finally, like another one that I really love, and sites that do this really well are interestingly in the sunglasses space as well, but Sun God and Paz Normal, which is more like a biking site, and Cotopaxi does this on their product list pages. But having side by side, and this works in mobile, but 2 little columns, which are compare tables. So you'll get like attributes side by side and a little drop down between this product that you're viewing and other similar products. So if you toggle there, switch it, then now you're comparing side by side specifications on like backpacks or your sunglasses specifications. And I love that because it eliminates the need to pogo stick back and forth and recall, like, even if you did click off to another product, you have to recall the details and go back and forth. Like I shop on desktop a lot. I can have 2 tabs open and I could like resize my browser and put them side by side. I can hack this. But yeah, I love that design pattern and that feature.
Yeah, and I think that's like going back to the problem that it solves. If you sell 3 products and they're wildly different, you sell a backpack, sunglasses, and a t-shirt. right? Just 3 products. Then it's pretty easy to like, okay, we're just going to pick one of these in different colors maybe, but it's the same functional thing. But mattresses, I'm really like mattresses is another one where you're definitely comparing side by side. You're trying to figure out like what is the difference between the normal versus the one that's like $700 more. Is it worth the $700 more? And that's where people might start doing the page parking. They'll open it in new tabs, but it's a pain in the ass to compare across that. It's also a pain in the ass when they're maybe trying to compare against other types of mattresses like Purple versus Casper. Like, what's the difference? And that's why those third-party sites get so much traffic and there's value. Also, it's unbiased, but those are problems that they face. So it's really intuitive ways that, especially on mobile, the problem becomes like 500x harder to solve for those just because of how small it is, how it needs to just function. But really interesting ways to solve for that problem of like trying to compare the products that you have available on your site, to which a product finder might be a solution. The side-by-side comparison might be a great solution. It's all in the data. You got to test it, but really cool ways to potentially try testing it.
Yeah, because back in the day, remember the old compare tables on desktop where you'd be on a product list and you'd launch a compare matrix and stuff? That just doesn't work on mobile. So whatever you can take the friction away and the user thinking away and just present. And I see infographics too, where you brought up a really great point, brand against brand. So a lot of brands are taking initiative and putting that like bake-off table right into their infographics and their PPs and in their product descriptions. Like, this is us versus everyone else.
That's where it comes to the content too, where, man, let's just be real about the comparison tables here. Like, you can't say you do everything and your competitors do nothing. I don't believe you. That's bullshit. You have to tell me some things that your competitors do better than you. Because if I see, oh, you do everything and your competitor does nothing, that's bullshit. I know you're cherry picking. I know it's bullshit, so I'm not going to believe it. The best comparison tables, content-wise, that I trust are the ones that are like, look, if you're looking for a mattress that is electricity powered and will cool you 24/7, that's not for us. We don't do that. But we're cheaper and you don't have to plug your mattress in. And if you lose power, you'll still be cool. Like, I don't know, I'm like, all right, I get the Valve prop. I'm good with that. I like that trade-off and I respect it. By the way, if you've seen the 8 Sleep, I think, it's a mattress that's like, it's so expensive.
8-figure sleep, it's like $100 million. It's $10 billion.
It's so much. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's absurd. I want one, and I would happily take one. I just like I can't afford a 20 grand Tiffany bracelet. I can't afford a 6 grand mattress.
We'll stick with $6 water.
Leave me and my $6 water alone. I do have a fridge stocked with liquid death. Anyway, Linda, this is amazing. It's funny. I came into this episode wanting to almost dunk on the cookie cutter pages. Immediately within like 15 minutes, I'm like, no, there's a really great use case for cookie cutter when you don't have the resources. And there's still really great ways to differentiate. So changed my mind. It doesn't happen often, but good on you. So, Linda, you run e-commerce ideas, which is where we talked a lot about this stuff. I'm going to try and plug some versions of the things we discussed in the description so y'all can follow along and check it out on your phone or on your desktop or whatever. Linda, you're an amazing follow on LinkedIn for you personally and ecom ideas. I know people, if they find some real cool shit out in the wild, they could DM you those ideas for a chance to be featured on ecom ideas. Anything else cool you want to plug? Anything cool you got working on?
Just the website. If you are working on a project or want to get some inspo, it's a searchable database or a browsable database. ecomideas.com with 1 M. And yeah, and LinkedIn we're posting every single day. So you can get a fringy, a notable example from the wild every single day.
Amazing. Linda, thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
Thanks, Shiva.